Welcome to episode 100 of Coffee with Mirko. I just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to all the guests and thank you to all the people who have tuned in in the past 7 months. I just want to say a big thanks to all of you. It's big achievement, episode 100, and it just couldn't have been done without all of you. So I'm gonna send an invite to, well, I'm sure you all know that it's James Hoffmann, the guest of episode 100. So we'll send you an invite, and whenever he's able to tune in, we'll just dive deep with some pretty awesome questions, I hope, and we'll read some of you as well. As we all know, he's quite a busy man, so I'm not expecting him to be on the dot. Here he is. He is on the dot. And we'll add him right now.
Morning.
Good evening, good morning to you.
Good evening, yeah, sorry.
That's all right. Hi, I don't know where to start aside from thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. It's a big honor, and it's quite surreal. But how are you? How's the family with the whole interesting year that we've done so far?
I'm all right. I have this low level fatigue that everyone has, like just the mixture of the world continues while feeling like it doesn't. But yeah, I'm all right. I'm not bad. I'm just got some coffee coming. Yeah, I can't complain. I'll go with that. Like, I've seen enough. We've all seen enough to not, it could be much worse. So I'm all right. How about you?
Good, and I just realized one thing. I mean, 2020 has been 2020, but I've actually kind of started a year by meeting you when you were down here in Melbourne, and I'm finishing 2020 with you on here. So we kind of spoke to each other twice within the year, so it's not bad. I can't complain.
That feels like a long time ago being in Melbourne. That feels like a long time ago.
And yeah, it's been within the same year. I'm good though. I think it's been incredibly humbling. The possibility and the incredible privilege that I have by living in a city like Melbourne, and I was able to still maintain myself. And there's definitely people were way rougher than myself. So it's been really good, to be honest. And obviously, other people had it way worse, for sure.
For sure.
To get the ball rolling, coffee. Why?
I think the answer I usually give is a pretty true one as well, though. Is I worked out pretty early on that I would never be bored. Like I would never feel finished in this industry. And I feel like I tried working in other stuff like wine, and I know wine is huge, and you could probably live lifetimes in wine. I just didn't connect the same way, but coffee, I realized that, I have a bunch of different interests, and in your life, your levels of interest in stuff ebb and flow, right? Like there's times where, you get little passion projects or kind of just areas of focus where you end up reading a ton. And I realized I could do that over and over again and still be very satisfied and still have this learning experience, because there's so much, right? Like you can go down the rabbit hole of one very specific thing, like an aspect of roasting, and you could spend years of your life, if you wanted to, focused on that, as much as you could spend years of your life focusing on like F1 varieties and experimenting with the kind of that sort of stuff, or even just learning about it, frankly, let alone doing the work. So yeah, for me, coffee was just wide and deep, and I could imagine never being bored, and so far I haven't been.
And we are glad that you found that within this crazy world. And I guess it sort of answered question number 2, which is something that I always talk about, which is obviously out of coffee, you made an incredible career and several businesses because you enjoy what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's incredible to see how you turned, like you said, the thing that you're passionate about into your livelihood because you don't want to get bored ever.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I definitely got close to doing the thing where you kill your passion by doing it for a living. And I think that's something we don't really talk about enough culturally. You know, we're always like, you know, do the thing you love and you'll never work a day in your life, which is not very true. So yeah, like I definitely, you know, I remember being very close to feeling like I just need to be done with coffee now. I need to go and do something else, and maybe I'll be drawn back to it later. Um, but I didn't. Well, not really. Like I think I just took a bit more time to learn about other things. But yeah, like it's been interesting, and I still feel like I have a lot left to do and that I want to do, which is kind of good. So um, yeah. Did I answer the question, or did I just answer it?
100%, 100%. If anything, it opens one more question, which is funny enough, the next one. I mean, consider what you just said. What, you know, if you could, what would be the advice that you would give to yourself when you just started?
Oh yeah, like work less. Don't like the um, yeah, just ultimately work less. Like try and find more balance in your life between work and not work. And I think don't underestimate how useful raising a little bit more money would have been to making your life a little bit more enjoyable at the start of starting a business. Like I'm all like it's square miles a bootstrapped thing, and that's good. And I'm you know there's benefits to that for sure. I just wished we'd scraped together a bit more cash before we started, because it just starting on an absolute tiny budget, like really like shoestring budget, sucked. It really sucked, and it just meant that you know you used the one resource you had, which was your own labor, excessively, right? Like that's basically it. Like so that made me tired and unhappy and a little burnt out and all of those things. So yeah, like work less.
I like it. I think there is like on your end where you were saying how it's a funny thing, this do what you love and you never feel like work because it's, I mean, if you're a baker and you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to start work, then you know obviously it's tiring and other things obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I guess there's still relevance within you know doing something that you love rather than something that you hate. But yeah, working, there's this whole concept that I gotta be you know, 13, 14, 16 hours. And there's so hustle culture, which is a funny, interesting one to me, because then it makes feel you not good enough or lazy the days that you work only 3 hours. But isn't it better to work just a good, solid couple of hours rather than scrambling around for 15?
Yeah, I you know uh you get to drift into sort of wider philosophies of like the purpose of work. But yeah, like I still work too much. I still find that difficult to switch off. Um, but you know, yeah, I feel like culturally it's just a mess right now. And like you know, certainly at Square Mile we have a pretty strong culture of go home. You know, when the day ends, like at 5 o'clock, go home. And if you really desperately want to stay and do something and mess around, sure. But you know, if you're going to stay and do anything, play some table tennis, like drink a beer, hang out, that's fine. But like, there's a lot of culture, especially around younger companies, where you're expected to work excessively. You're expected to, you know, show your face, put in the time. And yeah, there are roles that require a little bit more than the 9 to 5. But yeah, I think culturally you end up with lots of places that expect you to work yourself to the bone to prove yourself. And I think that's super screwed up. Um, so you know, like I really hate that kind of culture and work very hard against that. I like finish the day, go home, do something else, be off, do not answer emails. Like I'm aware that I work at funny times because I have this kind of weird life. But you know, I will be angry at someone for responding to my email out of hours. You know what I mean? I'm like, stop it. Do not. Why are you looking at Slack at 7 at night? Stop it. Like, go and be doing something else. Anyway, sorry, I'm just drifting
No,
around.
no, it's good. That's why I love the schedule send email on Gmail. So then
Mhm.
if I'm typing at 8, I send it the day after at 8 o'clock in the morning. So then,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's
that's a good feature.
yeah, more of the world. Just I think it was Volkswagen in Germany shut down their email servers between like 5 and 9, so to speak. So you can't pull your email off the server at that time. Um,
Oh,
you just can't. If you want to, you just can't. Your email doesn't function properly for most people. And I just like, sweet, I like that.
I
Um,
like that.
I like
Yeah,
it.
and also like the experimenting of Scandinavian countries around 4-day week.
Mhm.
That's something that we'll see more, I think, and it'll be interesting to see the development of it and see the bigger companies what results they get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my next question is very simple. When did you decide to give YouTube a go, and how life changing that became? Because it seems like you've been on YouTube forever, but it's been, a few
Yeah, it's been a
years.
while. It's been like, I think 4 years now, a bit
Yeah.
more. Yeah, I felt like I was late to YouTube. Um, I felt like you know, when I started making YouTube videos, that I was like, I'm too late, really, I'm too late, but I'll give it a go. And the people around me were just like, why aren't you making videos? You know, way back in the day, like in the first year or two of Square Mile, I used to make videos. Like I used to make little kind of like daily videos. Sometimes I made like little brew guide videos that were weirdly successful, and I just didn't click. You know what I mean? Like I think, yeah. Um, and so yeah, 2016, I started making videos again. I started I started by kind of ripping off what I was watching, which was what everyone was watching back then, which was like the rise of Casey Neistat and the daily vlog. So I started my very early YouTube videos are like weekly vlogs, just because I wanted a container to fill. Like I wanted to understand how to make a video, and if I ripped off broadly, stylistically, like what's I understood to be good, and I could watch it and be like, okay, I get why this works. Could I learn to make videos that way? And so at the end of that process, I was like, okay, I don't really want to make this as this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to make vlogs. That's not interesting to me. But I feel like I've got a routine and a rhythm around editing, around shooting. I feel more comfortable being in public with a camera. And does anyone get? I think people eventually do get comfortable, but I don't. I still feel weird shooting. Um, and these days, I usually have someone else with me shooting in public, which makes it less weird, but only like a little bit less weird. Um, and then yeah, so I started then making just the kind of videos that I thought were interesting to make. And then last year, it definitely changed. 2019, where it got some traction, and um, it started to be financially worthwhile ultimately. Like up until that point, those 2 years would have cost me way more than I earned out of anything doing it. You know, and there's a point where like I enjoy this, I'm learning new skills, I'm developing, I can see myself developing, because I can go back and watch videos from 6 months ago and cringe at this, that, and the other, and go back 2 years and just want to die watching those. Just curl up into a little ball. But you got to suck. You got to suck publicly. That's very important. So yeah, like last year was a kind of like a gear change, and then this year, compounded by people staying at home, compounded by people at home, I think wanting to drink coffee in a different way than they had previously. Then yeah, it kind of blew up this year in a big way as well. So yeah, like I started the year with about 200,000 subscribers, which felt like, okay, this is a big deal now. This is the thing. And so yeah, but this year to go, I think I'm at like 600 and something.
Yeah.
Is a lot. It's a lot of people. I try not to think about the fact. I try not to think about it. YouTube's scale is unimaginable. Like I I I most days I pick up 1,000 subscribers, and that's a lot. And if you imagine 1,000 people, you don't often get to see 1,000 people in a room. right? Like,
Nope.
but if you imagine them, if you do, you know, you're like, oh, that's a lot of people. And that's every day they watch something and we're like, I'll follow along. I'll click subscribe. And that's been every day for like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months now. You know, it's mind bending to me, the scale of it. And I'm still small fry, you know, in YouTube. I'm sort of small, medium fry. I'm not tiny now, and I know that. But yeah, YouTube is like huge, and I think people underestimate when you have an audience that big. You know, if 1% of the population cares about coffee, that's an enormous number of people. You know what I mean? Like, that's great. Like, and they're probably on YouTube. You know what I mean? That's where we do. Google owns information search, Amazon owns product search, and kind of YouTube owns how-to search. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you want to fix something, learn something, do something, you know, if you want to work out how to put holes in a plasterboard wall to suspend something,
It's true.
the first place I'm going to go these days is YouTube, because I can watch like a very usable video and be like, okay, I understand what I need to do now. Did I answer the question? Again, I'll keep asking you this because I go down these rabbit holes of
It's
whatever.
good.
Okay.
I think, well, I didn't want to write it as a question, but I have to say it. Just this is just personal. I think that I just gotta say it, man. Like, I think you got such assets when it comes to you. Super well spoken. I mean, English is not my first language, and yet I can appreciate the way you speak. Your voice, I think, is just soothing. In fact, I think that you could definitely apply it to, you know, there's meditation apps, and you could easily do guided meditation. And I'm sure I'm not the first one that tells you that. And then, yeah, obviously, you're adding value. And I think that's something you mentioned to me when we met each other, where you say how, you know, you were kind of like, it was crazy to think that nobody really in coffee gave YouTube, you know, like not nobody, but like very little amount of people give it, you know, like a good go, which is really interesting. And you're right. I don't think it is underestimated. And I think that it's never too late for the kids at the back to start anything because even, you know, picking 20 subscribers a day, 20 people in your house is still overwhelming if you're hosting a party. So, but no, like props to you. And we're gonna touch base a little bit soon, but I wanted to add a little segment in here, which I found on TikTok, which is quite trendy at the moment, which is like overrated, underrated. I just gonna be like, I'm gonna shoot you a word, it's coffee related, and it's just gonna be some word. Blooming.
Rated.
Good. Dalgona.
Overrated.
Stirring espresso.
Underrated.
Decaf.
Underrated.
Robot baristas.
Overrated.
YouTube.
Underrated.
Freezing coffee.
Underrated.
And then we got last three, water temperature.
Both. Overrated.
Automated tamping.
Underrated.
Brewing recipes.
Overrated.
Thank you. I think because I wanted to compile a whole bunch of things and get just a snap of your thoughts, because I think a lot of people would like this. And I gotta say, the other asset, like everybody's writing, is obviously your hairstyle, and everybody's asking your hair product. And look, I can't get past that. I read air at least 17 times.
Yeah.
So YouTube is great, is massive, and people just think it's easy, but like how much work goes into a single video? And is there a team behind you now that you're, like you said, since 2019, you've been gotten a little bit more harder?
I think I came to YouTube having been through the experience of building what was at the time like a pretty good coffee blog, right? So I had jim7.com where I used to write a lot. It will come back. It's sort of archived at the moment and kind of a mess, but it will come back in some form. And that took me years, right? Like that took me years of writing every week something. And and it just took time. It just takes time. And you know, all around you, we had people in coffee would start a coffee blog with fire and enthusiasm, and then they would just sort of stop. And consistency is a dangerous word, right? Because I don't want to, you know, the idea of I have to make this thing for my thing is an unpleasant feeling, right? Having to write a blog post for the blog. I've definitely been through that back in the day, and I've definitely been through that with videos where I'm like, oh God, I've got to make a video. I don't want to make this thing. But if you like making the thing, if you want the end goal of reaching a wider audience, it just takes time. Yeah, sure, occasionally people blow up. But if you build, you know, I think about like musicians who built audiences over time. Like, it takes time. You grind it out, you tour, you work, and you build an audience that lasts. If you blow up, the chances of lasting are much lower. And you see that all the time with kind of manufactured pop stars who are huge for like a year and then disappear again because they never really built the base. So, you know, for YouTube, I knew it was going to take time. It was going to take time to learn to be good at it. And the idea that you should be good at anything after even 3 or 4 years of doing it all the time is ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, if you're entering an arena of, say, making films, for the want of a better word, there are people who've been doing their whole lives in a pure and dedicated way, and they represent what is actually good. You know, if you think about, I've been doing this part-time for 3 or 4 years, why on earth should I expect to be good? That doesn't mean I can't make something enjoyable, I can't make something of value, but to be frustrated that I'm not good is a ridiculous thing in some way, right? Like, that's, you know, so yeah, I kind of came into this with an attitude of, it's just going to take time. I'm going to keep making, I'm going to keep making, I'm going to keep making, I'm going to keep making. I'll get better and I can enjoy that. And I think people, you know, underrate or underestimate the amount of time to grind stuff out. Like, I've done, just throw this back on you for a second, like, I've done almost no Instagram live things this year, right? Because the pandemic hit and everyone was just like, hey, will you do my Instagram live? And I was like, no, because I just don't have time. I've got stuff to do. I just can't do it. And so I had this blanket policy of just no, right? But 100 is a milestone of your work, right? Like, that is showing up again and 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 again. And I respect that, right? And I think that is worth celebrating. And so, you know, I broke the rule for this one because 100 is a big deal. I'm very honored to be number 100. That is very kind of you. But I also just want to say, well done on getting to 100. Most people don't get past 10. So 100 is awesome. So well done. You know, I hope you have some. It's hard to be satisfied and proud of things sometimes, but I hope you have a little bit of satisfaction that you got to 100, and almost nobody does. Almost nobody gets this far because it's hard. So, you know, anyway, respect for you on that one. To go all the way back to answering your question, I now have some help with YouTube stuff, and that will be something that I will probably do more of or get more help with, because I can't spend as much time doing this as I do without starting to lose my self in it a little bit. You know what I mean? My sense of autonomy. So yeah, like right now there's just really just 2 of us that work on this. Michael's not here right now, I'm in the studio, but he helps shoot and he helps edit, and we'll sort of, you know, I have used editors in the past, but I intend to use more. I'd like to, in the future, have someone who's more dedicated to sort of shooting and helping make stuff look good. And ultimately, I now understand what a producer does in making stuff happen. I have a management team who help with a ton of stuff, and they're great, but you know, they're sort of separate and remote. But that's it. I mean, YouTube's still mostly me and Michael who shoot just about everything. So yeah, that's YouTube.
Yeah, and that's still impressively big work. Like, honestly, and to add to that, I think what you were saying earlier on, I think that a lot of people overthink it in the sense that ultimately it's the market that decides what's good or what's not good. Like, you know, as long as you enjoy the process of shooting, of course there is improvement, but it's like making a cup of coffee for, you know, let's go smaller for your family, and if they will enjoy it, then yeah, you did a good job. So sometimes we tend to be hard on ourselves based on how many views, how many likes, how many shares, one-star review for your coffee shop or whatever it is. But then, well, you just got to listen to the broader market, as you say. That's the only one that has the power, really. It sounds cool, but the market decides what's, I guess, good, trendy, or, you know.
Yeah, but I also think there's no singular market. You know what I mean? If you think
So,
about it in this particular way, then you've got to understand that there are many markets, and maybe you have to find yours. And yeah, you can find yours and still not fit, and iterate that way. But I think it is, that's the lesson from YouTube, is that, you know, I feel like the coffee industry talked and thought as a whole about our audience in one particular way, and that's not the way it is. There's a bigger market than we thought, and there are also more distinct, separate, you know, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are interested in watching really weird coffee stuff. You know what I mean? And there's millions who don't care, billions who don't care, but there are hundreds of thousands of people who are genuinely interested in some weird stuff. And that's cool. That's amazing. And that's a huge opportunity.
I think the biggest proof of that is I think it's TikTok. I've been, well, yeah, it's part of my job because of my business to be on, you know, understanding the platforms. It's crazy. Like there's anything. What I like about it is the diversity, even to give the voices to the minorities. I've seen these amazing, I've got so many examples of people with certain, I guess they were not as lucky as, you know, I was with their bodies, or with, you know, because they had unfortunate situations, and yet they get a lot of love, and I like that diversity. Like you said, I've seen any video there. It's crazy. It'll be out of control. Speaking of platforms, hypothetically, what would you be doing if YouTube didn't exist? Which it sounds quite crazy, because
I mean, now TikTok, inevitably. Like, I don't know, I have a difficult relationship with Instagram as a platform, and Facebook is a way, just like a giant no. But it's not. I'm just not hanging out there. If YouTube didn't exist, that's a good question. I think outside of TikTok, you know, TikTok's interesting. TikTok's totally different, though, to me. If we're going to talk about this,
we can.
TikTok is like, okay, from an attention perspective, nothing comes close to YouTube, right? So, like, on average, I think the average watch time on my videos is it sort of rolls around between 6 and 7 minutes, right? Per video on average, right? Like that, and that's an enormous amount of attention.
Huge.
Right? And there's nothing comes close. I made a video back when I was still writing blog posts about like reusable cups, and I made a blog post about it, and I made a video about it. And this was when the channel was much smaller, and the blog post, you know, did X thousand views, but the average time on site was like 90 seconds to read the post. And so that times 5,000, whatever. And then I had a video that did like 10,000 views, but people spent 6-7 minutes there, right? Like the difference in attention was enormous, and therefore the difference in engagement and the opportunity for learning and communication and all this sort of stuff was totally different. So YouTube is that thing. TikTok is not. TikTok is, you know, what was the stat? The average time on, like the average time a teen spends watching YouTube is about the same as the time they spend watching TikTok. And they'll watch something like 19, I think it's like 19 YouTube videos in that time on average, and they'll watch 200 and something TikToks in that same time, right? So your division of attention is totally different, but it also means for TikTok, you've got this fire hose of views, right? Like there's just 10 times more views available, which means that you can shower them across a much broader range of creators. And so it's a much more satisfying place for a lot of people to make stuff on, because you'll just get higher engagement because there's just 10 times more potential views per minute than there would be on YouTube for a similar size audience, right? So yeah, TikTok is a place to do different things, but you know, TikTok doesn't want you really ultimately like if you think about the mechanics of the app, the whole subscribe thing is irrelevant. TikTok just wants to show you new stuff, right? Like that's the experience, and you have to be a little bit into this. Be like, oh yeah, I have this other panel of like people I actually follow. I'm just on my For You page forever. You know, the goals of those things are totally different. And you know, yeah, TikTok is just weird and fantastic and interesting. I just haven't worked out how to be valuable there in a way.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think I was finding interesting some of the comments. I think that's how a lot of people felt about Instagram odd years ago. They were like, no way, I'm already on Facebook. That's enough on a personal level. And then I guess a lot of them migrated as well. And I think it's just another platform. What I appreciate of them is the understanding of, hey, the Instagram most watched feature are stories, short, sweet, they can consume as many as they can while sitting in the toilet, literally. You know what, let's create something around that to give a voice to musicians to start it, which was like Instagram, let's give a voice to photographers. And then all of a sudden, all of that got all mixed up into a gigantic, stupidly humongous platform. And I think all the no-nos that I read, I think it's because they imagine it's just Charlie D'Amelio dancing. But once the algorithm picks up quite quickly what you like. I mean, my partner does arts and like drawing and all this stuff, and her For You page is just a lot of amazing artists, and it's beautiful to see all this community doing all sorts of things from embroidery to drawing. And I think it's good, and as long as you add value, you don't need to dance. I mean, but yeah, I mean, if you ever go on, I'm sure I'll find you on my page for my page. And I think you answered the question of what you love the most about YouTube. Now got the out of the box question, which I've asked all the other 99. If you could, who would you like to have dinner with?
It's a good question. Just one person?
Look, it's episode 100. I can give you 3.
No. I mean, like, 3's probably harder. I could just let me have a look.
Let's go to 1 then.
Let me have a think about 1. Let my brain chew for a little bit. Ask me another question because I don't have a good answer for you.
The next question is a good question, so we'll definitely use the brain. As a creator, how do you deal with hate and negativity?
That's a good question. A couple ways. Firstly, like the rational part of my brain, right? Which is the bit that doesn't do as well. But the rational part of my brain has to sort of think, how bad has your day been for this to be the outcome of this, right? If your way to feel better is to just be mean to people online anonymously, that sucks for you. Like that's sad. And so, you know, whether that's weird or not, I'm just like, dude, like that sucks for you. Like, I'm sorry, like that you just had to let it out like that. And so I harbor no ill will most of the time. I mean, there's people who are just being gross and whatever else, and you're just like, yeah, bye-bye. But the ones that get you are the ones, and this is the problem with getting like an audience of this size now, or videos that have a big enough audience. With anything you make, you'll have this fear about its flaws, right? And so I don't really care if people pick on how I look. I don't really care because I'm stuck with this. That is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, you're just being mean to feel better. That's irrelevant. It's when they pick on the video and they hit exactly my fear about the flaws of the video. Those are the ones I hate. Those are the ones where I'm like, damn it. You know, like, we all suffer imposter syndrome. If you do these things and people say nice things about them, you're like, well, you know, I'm doing my best, but it's not flawless here. So the ones that hurt are the ones that are accurate around my fears. But yeah, like, if people are like, you've got a stupid face, or you don't like the way you look, or I don't like your hair, or I don't like your glasses, or I don't like your jumper. So, like, I don't, you know, I do. So, you know, tough. But if you're like, this is bad because X, Y, Z, or, you know, this sucks because this, you're like, oh, I agree. You know, deep down, part of me does, and you're like, I hate that. And the other answer is, honestly, like, I tend to read my comments for the first hour after a video goes up. I'll generally be in the comments and just respond to people and have a little chat. But, you know, this year, certainly, the volume of comments very quickly exceeds what I can look at or read. And so then I tend to just use YouTube's features where after a day or so, I'll come back in and I'll look at the comments ranked by the audience. I'll interact a little bit more with them there. But as for like reading everything, no. And YouTube, I don't even go and look at like the stuff YouTube has auto moderated anymore. I used to go through and pick through and unpick stuff that was, you know, actually okay, but YouTube thought was bad or whatever else. It's too much. It's too much now. Like, if every video has at least 1,000 comments on it, I just can't interact with that. And early on, it's great to interact, and I do like interacting with an audience that way. But you know, generally the first hour is people who want to see the video, who are just, you know, interested in hanging out and talking about it. I still don't understand what people get out of commenting first. Like, I don't get first culture, and it's wild. It's wild. The first 5 comments on every video of mine are just like first, and you're like, but 4 of you aren't. Like, I don't get first culture. I don't get it. I do not.
TikTok exploded that culture. Like, it's I don't know why, but it's yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So yeah, solid work, Mark, on the first there. Thank you. No, you see, beaten to the first.
That's right.
So,
and yeah, we noticed.
You're chasing the first, and you're not going to get there. So yeah, that's the haters. Like, I try not to think about it too much. I try not to engage with it very much. It's a giant sea of opinion. You know, certain stuff comes up again and again and again, and that's okay. It is what it is. I look like I look. This is my face. It is what it is.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'll ask you another question before you get on to the dinner guest. Yeah. I guess this is a bit easier, or maybe harder. What's one of your favorite videos that you shot?
Probably one of my favorite videos is it's called "What No One Tells You About Learning to Taste," which isn't particularly about coffee necessarily, actually, at all. It's kind of more about how to enjoy things and how to take pleasure from life. And it's one where it doesn't have a ton of views. I mean, it's got a lot of views by any, you know, sensible scale, but it doesn't have like a crazy amount of views. But people who watch it, I think it just connects with people, and I like that. Like, it's about going down the rabbit hole and getting obsessed, and essentially, by loving coffee and getting deeply, really into coffee, you can absolutely stop enjoying it, right? And all you see is the flaws, and all you see is the downsides, and it's just about, like, that's a journey you'll go into with, if you learn about wine, if you get interested in wine or whiskey or anything, at some point it's very easy to get into a corner where all you see is flaws and everything could be better, and there's actually not that much pleasure in anything. That's pretty true of music, and, you know, like that kind of stuff. If all you can hear in a piece of music are the errors in production to your ears, you've just totally missed the point of music. But I can understand how that happens. So that's probably my favorite video. Just from it's not really about coffee, and I like that bit about it, and it just connects with people, and I'm proud of it. I think it's a good little video. So yeah,
it's good.
Yeah,
I like it.
The dinner guest now, aren't you? And I've done very little to make headway in this, and I'm trying to think, like, of all the people that I've been obsessed with.
What I like about this question is that, well, it's a bit selfish, but is that at some stage today, throughout the day, it will hit you, and you're like, actually,
yeah,
also this person, and then you think about me for 1 second, and you know, that's I like that. That's a part.
A time bomb in my brain. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's just going to be like a little moment of outrage at about 4 in the afternoon. I'll be like, oh, there it is. I'm sure I think who I was kind of generally obsessed with and who was quite formative to me. I still would like to have. He's alive, so that probably makes it easier, not impossible. I think Harold Mcgee was he wrote a book called On Food and Cooking, and he was sort of the first person to really popularize understanding food through science. He's not the first food scientist, but he was the first to be like, let's understand why an egg cooks the way it cooks, and if you understand that, then can you cook a better egg? That's that. And I think he was hugely influential on just about everyone who tried to understand cooking better. And that's, you know, I read that, I got that in like 2003, and it was a sort of gear change in the way that I thought about what I did. And I don't know if my career would have been the same without that book in it. And he's a super interesting dude as well. And it would just be interesting to eat a meal with him. I did meet him once, so this is less interesting. I'll find you another guest in a minute. He came when we had a pop-up in 2010 called Penny University. That was this weird experience thing. And he came in, he was in London, and someone sent him in, and I sat and talked to him for like a couple of hours. And he ended up writing about it for the New York Times in a piece about whiskey that was very confusing. But just like super interesting dude, and just, yeah, I don't know. I think someone who was definitely shifted my career through his work. Let's go to someone who's not alive though, because that would be more interesting. I'll come back to another. Let's do some
That's
questions.
good.
We'll come back.
I'll get you the other questions. You kind of summed it up before, you know, you went from 250, I think, 250,000 followers, I think it was just in April this year, just over 600,000, just a matter of a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any ideas for the 1 million subscriber video?
Do you know, the truth of it is, and this was true at 100,000, this was true at 50,000, this was true at 250,000. Milestones are incredibly empty feeling for me. It's an extremely arbitrary number, and I remember hitting 500,000 and being like, oh, okay. I mean, like, it would be nice to hit 1 million, because 1 million is an absurd number. But as for the video to celebrate it, I don't know. I don't know. I would hope to have gotten the AeroPress video out before then. As the angry part of my audience is like, make the AeroPress video. And I'm like, okay, we'll get there. You know, I got a little toy in this week that is going to be huge for that video, but I'm not going to talk about that now. I don't know. I don't know if they're worth celebrating, because they don't matter ultimately, right? And we have this culture that tells you to chase these metrics, and they're so empty.
I couldn't agree more. I just want to hear from you. It's always a very YouTube, as in I think it's very YouTube about, you know, the milestones with the, you know, the little thing at the back that everybody has when they get the which you have one.
Where is it? Yeah, I have it. I just don't. I don't put it up anywhere because it's. I
guess it belongs in the YouTube realm, but I get it. I mean, we spoke about it earlier. I think, you know, even if you have 100 followers, but they care about what you say and your message, it's still a lot of people, really, at scale. If you had them all in your household, that wouldn't feed my tiny apartment, that's for sure. Speaking of videos, are you allowed, and if you're not, it's okay, to share one of your famous coffee prediction for 2021? This is a bit cheeky, curveball, but or maybe one prediction that is not going to make it into the video.
You know, I'm so glad I ended up not doing a video. I did a 2019 prediction, and then I did a little summary of it in 2020, and I never got round to doing a 2020 prediction video. Well, I'm very glad, right? Because this has been the most predictable year for a long time. Look, you know, there is. all of the easy predictions are the bad ones, which is, you know, for many countries, coffee businesses, the first half of next year is going to really suck, and we're going to lose loads of great businesses again. You know, I'm pleased by the fact that we haven't lost more, but you know, looking at numbers in the US, looking at numbers in Europe, I just don't see it. You know, I don't see us coming out unscathed. The UK in particular will have a double dip. You know, we get Brexit, and then we get, you know, vaccines or whatever to one side. Yeah, there's just, it's going to be bad. In terms of a nice prediction, let's try to think of a nice prediction. I think I think we're going to start to see the impact of it. Like, this year has changed the way people drink coffee, because they, you know what I mean? Like, and it's trying to work out what that will mean. Like, there have been more espresso machines sold than ever before for people's homes. There've been more grinders sold than ever before. Like a substantial chunk of the population got used to good coffee in coffee shops, and then was like, but I still want it. I still want it. I value it enough. And that's really interesting. And so, you know, I think it's going to be a tougher year for chain coffee businesses who don't really have a proposition outside of convenience, and they'll do okay. But I think a lot of people are like, well, it's actually pretty convenient to make a coffee before I leave the house now. So I'm not going to pick one up at the train station. I'm not going to pick one up outside the office. You know what I mean? I'm just going to make something because I can. And then if I go out for coffee, it'll be a good one. You know what I mean? Because you know, I can do convenience in my house now, right? Like, and I think that's a really interesting shift. It's not so huge as to change culture, you know what I mean? But I think a substantial amount of population can quickly and easily get up in the morning and put into a thermos a delicious cup of coffee and take it to work, and will do. And I would do, you know, like, yeah, I think it's definitely one where a lot of a lot of coffee shops right now will be looking at, how do I survive in the next, you know, year? And the answer is not cut costs. The answer is not, you know what I mean, like squeeze, you know, that sort of way down. You need to offer a more viable alternative. And, you know, I do think that for a lot of people, they've learnt the value of making coffee well, right? Like, not having a barista make your cappuccino and you having to do it yourself, that's made you appreciate the barista again. Where you're like, oh, it is nice to pay someone to do this for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I miss that. And, you know, certainly, you know, in London, you know, the only place I can see, neighborhood cafes are as busy as ever, because people value that experience and people value the work done by baristas. Again, I think that it's really that kind of area of, oh, I'll just pick up a coffee on my way to work. I'll just pick up my coffee somewhere like that. They're kind of just need caffeine moment. But I think when people want good coffee, they will expect cafes to do that, but they will have higher expectations than they did before, because they can make pretty good coffee at home now. So you better make great coffee in a great environment and be nice to them. Then I think you're okay.
I was hoping that you were going the direction, because that's exactly what, you know, I think in one word is appreciation. And I think appreciation extends to having a roof, running water, electricity, and, you know, obviously essentials. And in the coffee case, I think the appreciation of, you know what, damn, it's harder than I thought making coffee at home. And now I'm learning, watching videos or watching, reading blogs about it. And it's like, well, I'm learning more and more, and I appreciate more the work that goes behind it.
Right.
And quality. I'm hoping that will shine as well, in terms of maybe now the local, maybe more mainstream shop that I used to go every day, once I get back into the CBD zone, whatever, it might not taste as good as I thought it was. And then I might choose a different business that focuses on different kind of quality. So yeah, that you answered spot on the question. Someone told me that the Instagram live has been extended for about an hour, but I don't want to take more than an hour of your time. So it's been super, you got no idea how much I appreciate this. I'll put it in words via message, because I don't want to waste precious seconds. I just want to ask you probably the biggest question. Today you decide you retire from all platforms, you're sick of it. I can't hear you now, but I can hear you now. That's okay. Let's say that today you say, stuff it, I retire, I'm going to go offline, sick of social media. What would you like to leave behind as a statement message? Or I guess we'll combine it with your coffee vision, mission, or life, or whatever.
It's a good question. Sorry, someone's sending me random texts.
It's okay.
I would like to leave a, I don't really believe in legacy, right? Like, I don't really believe in it. It's so fleeting. No one has a meaningful legacy. You know, I'd like to leave the world in a better place than I found it. Yeah, I'm happy enough where if people appreciate coffee a little bit more, if people enjoy coffee a little bit more, that's kind of it. That's the purpose. And I'm pleased by that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's been a satisfying part of this journey so far when people message me that, you know, and they say, you know, that you've changed my appreciation for coffee. I enjoy it. You've sent me down the rabbit hole, whatever it's going to be. Like, that's enough for me. And, you know, I'm aware that YouTube doesn't have an end in that regard. Like, there's not a point where I'm like, now that I've made X million people or whatever it is, there's no, again, the numbers don't really matter. So the work doesn't really have a beginning or an end. So at some point I will stop. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's a difficult question.
That's okay.
And I don't necessarily have a good answer to it. Like, I'm aware I'm doing work that doesn't really have an end, and that's okay. That's most work in some ways. But I'm also aware that, like, there won't be a point of satisfaction from it. Yeah, would you say you've completed coffee? That's it, right? You never get to feel like you've completed coffee. It was a good comment. I like that.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it's you know, in all of these things, there is inevitably progression, and I'll stop doing it at some point because I can't make YouTube videos for the next decade. Yeah, I don't know. If I think about that too much, it'll probably break my head. And
that's okay. We don't want that. And I think there's another lovely comment about the fact that you might not believe in legacy, but you definitely help to spread the love about coffee, ethical consumption, rather than just blind impulse buy. And we appreciate you for that and many more things. And I think how humble you are. I mean, it's just incredible to hear you and having you here. And I thank you for that. And lastly, very selfish question, because I don't believe that, you know, it's if you were on my seat, what question should I ask you?
Great question. That's a good question. I don't know. I'm the worst at, like, you know, you've got some great questions today, but they're very difficult questions. But I like that's a good.
That's okay.
What would I ask me? What would I ask me? Do you know? I would ask more questions about failure. I would ask more questions about the uglier stuff, because I don't think it's right that we always sort of, you know, success is not a very good way to learn from other people. I think mistakes are much better ways to learn from other people. So that would be, I would dig into some, you know, we don't necessarily have time now, sadly, but no, I think mistakes, failures are interesting and worth learning about, because not making someone else's mistakes is a great way to learn. Trying to replicate someone's success usually requires rolling the same dice that they did, and that's hard to do. So yeah, I think it's like, talk about your failures, talk about your mistakes.
And it really connects with the earlier start of the conversation, and I love what you said. It's I remember a conversation I was doing. When it comes to personal branding, and I don't do social media work for other industry than hospitality, just as a principle, because I don't understand it. I don't know the lingo, and that's one of the pillar of my business. But then I still help people because I feel if someone sends an inquiry, I always say, hey, look, let's jump on the phone or a free, WhatsApp video call, whatever. I was talking to a personal trainer and I said, listen, like you got to, and he said to me, but I can't do a front lever yet, which is a fancy thing if you're into calisthenics. I said, perfect. Because everyone, not just in the fitness world, it's just, they all show the finished product. But that's confronting for people. That's intimidating for people because that's not the real reality, the struggles behind it. So you should be documenting the process of you learning that from lever. Because anyway, you've already been able to do so many more things that others can't, and you can teach and show how, like you said, the vulnerability of things is actually quite beautiful. But yeah, I appreciate what you just said. I think that we need to be more comfortable around it for sure. James, it's been absolutely more than enjoyable, humbling. 57 minutes. And I really want to just say thank you for being here, to come here. And I just hope to get you back in Melbourne soon.
We'll get there. And congratulations again on hitting 100. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of showing up every day. So thank you for letting me be a part of that, and congratulations to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you. And well, you have an amazing start of the day because it's morning over there. I'm sure you got busy, and we'll all look forward to your next videos. And again, thanks, man.
No worries. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
I just, I'm quite lost for words. Like I said at the beginning, I met James briefly at a small event here in Melbourne at the start of 2020, and I'm finishing 2020 by talking to him here. So I just want to say thanks to him, but also thanks to every single guest that came and had a chat with me live on Instagram that produced 99 episodes. Everyone has a story and everyone has to share amazing insights, and I'm just filled with gratitude towards everyone. The 12, 15, 22 people watching, listening, people listening to the podcast on Spotify, the 77 subscribers on YouTube. It doesn't matter the numbers, it's just overwhelmingly humbling experience to have had been able to share this with a few people. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. I've seen lots of familiar people, also new one. Your support has just been incredible. There's been people that have watched every single episode, and just want to say thank you. Thank you to James again. I know how busy he is, and it was I wish I had a better closing line. All I can say is this is just the start. I haven't even started yet. That's what I've been saying to a few of my friends. This is the end of season 1 because I'm working on a second project on top of my business. After COVID, business has been going a little bit crazy, so I'm busy. Season 2 will have a very different format, and I'm very excited about it, and it will be in the new year. If you're new, feel free to share, reshare this story, this live. I'm not sure. This episode, if you just tuned in, will be available on our Spotify, and our time is running out. So I will say thank you again. Take good care. I will love and leave you, and thank you again.